Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss the next type of animal tissue. As in the previous class we have studied about different types of animal tissues. So there we studied that there are 4 types of animal tissues which may be present. First, that is epithelial, which is forming the outer and inner lining, and second is connective tissue. Third type of tissue which is called as fluid tissue, and fourth is nervous tissue. So these are 4 basic types of animal tissues. Epithelial tissue we have already discussed in the previous class. Today we will be discussing connective tissue. As far as connective tissue is concerned, they are present almost everywhere. So their location is almost all parts of animal body may be containing these connective tissues. And characteristic difference is that cells of connective tissues, they are suspended in matrix. Suspended in matrix means that there is a fluid-like substance which is present in the intercellular spaces. So that is characteristic feature of these types of tissue in comparison to epithelial. There we studied that they are very closely packed and there is no intercellular space. Whereas in this type of tissue, they are suspended in the matrix which is present in the intercellular spaces. Connective tissues are of further 3 different types. These 3 different types are connecting, skeletal, and fluid tissue. Now these connecting tissues they are also called as binding tissue. Why binding tissue? Because they are binding different types of tissues and organs together. They attach 2 organs or 2 tissues together. So that is why they are called as binding tissue. Similarly, skeletal tissue, it is also called as supporting tissue. Why it is called as supporting tissue? Because it is supporting the body. The body is supported from inside by the set of bones which are protecting the inner organs. And fluid tissues, they are also called as transporting tissue. That means fluid tissue, it helps in transporting a material from one place to other. So from this you will be able to understand that what is their most important function. Connecting tissue, they help in binding the tissue or organs together. They fix them in their particular space or place. Skeletal tissue, which help in supporting the body from inside, and fluid tissue, they help in transporting the material from one place to another place. Connecting tissue, they are of further three types. One is areolar, second is adipose, and third is fibrous connective tissue. Areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and fibrous connective tissue. Areolar tissue, it is present in the form of thin sheets and it binds skin with the underlying tissue. So as I told you that the main function of these tissues may be binding. So areolar tissue is the tissue which binds skin with muscles or underlying tissue and it is also present in the space between organ of body. So areolar tissue, as it is most abundant tissue, it is present in a large amount in our body and it is performing two main functions. It is binding skin with the underlying muscles or the other tissues which are present under the skin. Because of that, skin is not that loose, and it also may be packing the organs which are present in our body. So the space between the organs, that is filled by this type of tissue. Second type of tissue is adipose tissue, which is commonly called as fats. Because it stores fat in it. Adipose tissue is called as, commonly it is called as fats also. Reason being that it stores fat in it, and that fats, it is stored in it in the form of oil globules. You know that whatever food we eat, that contains fats in it. That is a component of fats which you get from different types of cooking oils, butter and such kind of material which are present in the food, and we know that fats that is not easily burnt in the body. Fats has a tendency to get stored in the body for the future use. So that fats which is stored in the body, that is stored in these types of tissue, that is adipose, which is present on the outer lining of the organs or just beneath the skin. Because of this adipose tissue, the body becomes fat. We must remember that the adipose tissue, when it stores fat in it, then its size increases. So that means the volume of the fat person is more because volume of adipose tissue present in his body is more. So the number of cells will be same or roughly same, but because the cells are having more volume because of more storage of oil globules in them, that is why the body becomes fat. And when the fat is lost from the body, maybe due to some adverse conditions when you are not getting enough food or when you do some exercises, then that fat which is present in the adipose tissue, that is consumed, and because of that, size of the cell decreases or size of the cell shrinks and the person becomes thin. So that was just an additional information for you, that why we become fat or how we can become thin. So we all know that sometimes people start dieting and they start avoiding the food at all. So that should not be done, because some fats is required for the body. In the lesson food also you studied that fats are required for absorption of some vitamins also, and fats are stored in the body for future use. So because of that, the fat should be present in the food, but the amount which is required in the food, that should be limited. Another kind of tissue which is called connecting or binding tissue is fibrous connecting tissue. Fibrous connective tissue, it is further of two types. They are named as tendon and ligament. These fibrous connective tissues, fibrous word means fiber like, thread like, so probably these threads, they are forming thread like structures which are very strong and which help in connecting the bone to bone or bone to muscle. So these fiber like structure which are connecting bone to bone, they are called as ligament. So what are ligament? They connect bone to bone. And tendons, they connect bone to muscle. So if there is one large bone which is connected to other large bone, then those fibrous tissues which are connecting bone to bone, they are called as ligament. And with the bone, some muscles are also attached. So for example, if with this bone there is some muscle which is attached, so this muscle, it is attached to tendon with another kind of fibrous connective tissue which is called as tendon. So what is ligament? Ligament is that which connect bone to bone, and tendon is that fibrous connective tissue which connect bone to muscle. There are some other differences in tendon and ligament. For example, tendons, they are very strong and they are cord-like. Cord-like means, cord we call a rope or a thick thread, thick and inelastic thread, that is called as cord. In common language we use cord and rope as synonyms. So characteristic feature of tendon is that they are very strong and they are cord-like and inelastic. Inelastic means you cannot stretch them. They cannot be pulled. They cannot be stretched. Their shape and length is fixed. Why they are so? Because they are formed of non-elastic fibers which are called as white fibers. So the structure of tendon is that it is strong cord-like inelastic structure which is formed from white fibers. In comparison to this, ligaments, they are elastic and they are made of yellow fibers. So because they are elastic, they can be pulled, their length can be increased, but when they are relaxed, then they come back to their original shape and size. So because of this, they are able to stretch and de-stress. So because of that, they are able to move the bones. So characteristic feature is that tendons are strong, they are inelastic, whereas they are elastic. So that means they are elastic, yet they are strong also. They don't break very easily. They have strength, but they are elastic in nature. And these are formed of yellow fibers, and they are formed of these are formed of white fibrous tissue, and they are formed from yellow fibrous tissue. And these are present at the end of muscles, whereas these are present at the end of bones. And of course, we have discussed that tendons, they join bone to muscle, whereas ligaments, they join bone to bone. What could be the function of tendons and bones? Both tendons and ligament, not bone. The function of tendon and ligament. What is the function of tendon and ligament? The most important function is that with the help of tendons and ligaments, the bones can move. And because of their elastic and inelastic nature, they can come back to their original place. When the bones move, then locomotion takes place. So the most important function of fibrous connective tissue is that it helps in movement. You must have experienced that sometimes tendons or ligaments, they snap, they may break. For example, when the bones are too strained, maybe you have a rough fall or you get your arm or leg twisted, then the bones, they get dislocated. So that may be due to breaking of tendons. And sometimes the muscles, they get stretched or they get snapped. So because of that, the ligaments can also get damaged. So if tendon and ligament, they are damaged, then you need to take proper rest so that they can repair. And during that time, when the tendon and ligaments, they are damaged, you will experience that you will not be having proper movement in that part of the body. So that shows that most important function of fibrous connective tissue is that it helps in movement or locomotion. Here you should remember that there is difference between movement and locomotion. Movement is slight displacement, whereas locomotion is going from one place to other place. So when there is movement, for example, you may be moving your hand, you may be flexing your muscles, your eyelids move, your nostrils move, your tongue moves, but there is no displacement of one place to another place. So these are called as movement, which takes place with the help of muscles. And locomotion means going from one place to another place. For example, you may get up from your chair and move around in the room. So that will be displacement in your position. So that will be called as ligament, which takes place with the help of bones and muscles both. So that is how we can understand that these tissues, they help in different functions because they get so adapted, because they are so differentiated, hence they can do specific functions. The next type of tissue that we will be discussing is skeletal tissue, and that we will take in next class. So till that time you can make a chart of the differences between tendon and ligament, and you can also try drawing this figure in your notebook so that you remember that what is the location of fibrous connective tissue.